Hello, welcome, Marlin here. This is the preview of today's cookie project. The flower is made up of 8 cookies. Each cookie is 3 petals. Then we have the center, just a flower that's large enough to hide the hole there, and as many leaves and little accent flowers as you want to add. We're going to start the tutorial with how to create those leaves. Then we're going to look at the petals, the tweaking of the petals so that they actually fit together, and then we're going to decorate. So let's jump into today's tutorial. If you want to add the leaves to your platter and you want them to kind of sit nicely at the same level, you should trim off the leaves using the cutters that you use to make the petals. Matching leaves together, if you want to do that. So you take the little leaf to cut out the big one, you see, like so, and then you place the little leaf in there, so then you get kind of this nice little, and then you can use this to trim. So it's a little bit fussy, but you get a nice little fit, and if you want you can use a scrap piece of dough here to help the fuse when they bake. Here's a little photo of the parts, and you can make as many leaves as you want, as many accent flowers as you want. You certainly need a middle, but regarding the petals, they need to be tweaked. If you put together the flower when the cookies are raw, you'll see you probably will need to actually cut off parts of the petal, and then once baked, as the cookie kind of expands in the oven, you might need to do some additional tweaking, which I'm going to show you right now. I just want you guys to be aware of that so that you have a pleasant experience if you decide to make this. And after it bakes, it could not fit super nice. So this contraption here is just handy. You can kind of plane them a little bit, and then you're going to get a nice 45-degree angle, and everything's going to fit nicely together. And you want to pick a cookie here that's going to hide. You could pick something that's going to fit inside the hole, but I don't like it as much. I like the look of this. It hides this seam and it's up above. I like this look a little bit more. If you wanted, you could attach glue that bottom cookie so that this doesn't move, if you want to have something a little bit more structural, but that's entirely up to you. I'm outlining the cookies. The petals, I should say, so I need 8 of these guys. So I'm splitting up that little line in 3, kind of eyeballing it. And then when I know I'm about to end, I stop squeezing the icing so that it tapers for a better fit. Connect over here. Again, I'm going to release just as I know I'm about to end so that it tapers, and then you can kind of come in and fiddle so that it heals a little bit more seamlessly. And there it is. And now the leaves, and we can see here that I cut them so that they would fit snugly against the cookie. And I'm outlining in the same brown icing those leaves in the same fat line so that it's nice and visible. There. There we go. All right. And now I'm going to fill in my petals. I'm using 3 shades. I'm not sure if I'm doing 3 shades of pink or just 3 colors, but we're going to start here with this. This is Dusty Rose, a light Dusty Rose. And I'm connecting to the brown perimeter and just flooding the whole thing. And now the next petal here, I actually put the icing back in the bowl and darkened it so they complement each other because I have that pink base, and I just added more dusty rose to it. And you see they're different, but they go nicely together. I'm not sure what I should do the last petal. I might do ivory actually, and then airbrush on it in pink. That might be pretty. Here's my final color. I opted for ivory. And again, not terribly complicated. I'm just connecting to the brown and flooding the whole area. We've got our border, so the icing's not going to go anywhere. And then once this has had time to dry, I'm going to airbrush my quilted flower. Alright, so here are my cookies, and I'm going to be adding 2 shades of green to them. So this is the first one, the lighter one, and then I'm going to put it back in the bowl and darken it up so that I can create my 2-tone cookies here. There. That's it. You can see the 2 shades of green are very pretty. And now I'm flooding my second leaf here. You can see the other shade of green. This is a super light leaf green, kind of more pastelish. And just a quick flood. This icing is considerably runnier and so a little bit harder to maneuver. I'm going to try to stay away from the edge so it doesn't fall right off. It levels very easy though. That's the advantage of runny icing. Here are all my petals. And let's just look at what I'm going to be adding to them. So here is my prototype cookie. I'm going to be airbrushing like a print on each of the petals just to as I look at it, I might keep the pink one plain. I'm not loving that airbrush color on it. So I'm doing a polka dot on the dark, a floral on the ivory, and that's it. So let's take a look at that. I'm working on a piece of Scott towel just because when you airbrush, it does tend to get everywhere. And I'm going to start with my if you can see here, I created a stencil kind of special for this just so that I can have multiple designs on it. So right now I'm working on the polka dot and I'm just airbrushing in white that area. And now I'm just hitting the pink, dark pink area to get my polka dot there. Let's see. So you can just run through your cookies. Try to stay a little bit away from the brown line so that you don't get the polka dots on the brown. I'm not sure if you can see the shape of the design there. You see it? It's like a long tier. And the point of that is to create like a pleat in that center petal. So I'm hitting and kind of angling my gun so that it shoots further and get that pleat in my section. You see that? just like that. So I'm going to run through all of them, adding these pleats. All right, now we can see the polka dot on the dark, and here on the ivory I'm going to add a floral pattern to that. So it shouldn't be too bad with regards to overspray next to it because it's essentially the same color. So I'm just airbrushing my flowers here. And you can kind of run through them. You see? There's our flowers. Again, and now I'm airbrushing leaves in the openings. I tried to format the leaves so that they would fit obviously in between the flowers. And when you're cutting a 2-layer stencil like this, ideally you score. You don't cut, you score the flowers on your leaf stencil so that you can kind of see where to position those leaves. If not, you're wasting a lot of time fiddling with alignment, but my stencil didn't cut. I had formatted it to score, but I would have, I guess, had to run it through again, but I was impatient. But that's the trick, to be able to kind of blindly add this element to your flower pattern. So we've airbrushed the petals. I thought I'd also airbrush the leaves. This is the same color as the base. It will just look a little bit darker. I'm not doing full coverage. I'm just kind of blushing it. There. This is a bit trickier on these. I just want it on that little leaf. Here are the petals, the final step. I'm adding a stitch all on top of the brown. And you can see without, it's kind of missing something, so that's why I'm doing it. It was the plan all along. It's tedious, not hard. If you're going to add tedious elements, they should be kind of really something that adds a lot of value to the design. I think that this really gives it a really nice look. It hides a bit of the brown. And I'm just popping up and down with my piping bag as I do these little bursts of squeezing. I'm using a 1.5 piping tip so that a portion of the brown still shows. We do want it to kind of show. We don't want it all hidden. It's the backdrop to this line. And you just take your time and work your way around all the petals. Rotate your cookie if you're not at a good angle. And you want to have an icing that's floppy. That's really gonna lay on the cookie. You don't want to have to deal with peaks with your needle. It's already tedious enough. You don't want to have to come back on each line that you pipe to have to kind of tap it on the head to flatten it. You want icing that's floppy enough that it will do that all on its own. And I don't know if you can see, so my airbrushed flowers are the same gel color as that center dark pink. And so I did get overspray, but because it's the same pink, it's kind of forgiving and less apparent. And now I'm just adding a small dot to the center of all of these little airbrushed flowers. Finishing my last stitch here. I can't wait to see my flower come to life. I've got my nesting cutters here to add my guidelines to the cookie. Let me see. I'm just tracing the cookie cutter. Alright, and then I'm going to trace another line. Here's the middle. I thought a ruffle would kind of finish it off nicely, so I'm just adding a wiggly line to each petal here. Ugh, that one's not nice. I'm having trouble. My icing is not looking like I'd like it to go. So this will be kind of on top of the cookie, so it doesn't matter if your petals are up a bit and if they're more fragile. So work your way around. There, and I'm just and now I'm going to trim where the button's going. So I've got my ruffle around, and now this is the edge of that button we traced earlier. So if you don't remove the icing will not lay, the second button color will not lay nicely on the cookie. And now I'm just drawing the holes to the button. I had some trouble, so I'm just going to do it this way. So I'm doing an X, and then here the O, the hole. It's kind of, I'm trying to figure out how to make them look so that they're not so wonky. You might need to wipe your marker. It gets yucky. All right, there we go. So that's done. And now I'm going to outline and flood the center portion of this button here. Once this has had time to crust over, I'll be able to do the outside of the button so that we get that little beveling, you know, that's at the edge of a button. So keep this somewhat flat just so that you can get the outside a bit puffier. So these sections have had time to crust, and now I'm just outlining the button to get that bevel that we see on the edge of a button. And now I'm using brown thread. I know we stitched the rest in white, but if I do that, it will be barely visible. So I'm putting an X in the middle here, and this is the finishing touch to our platter. Here are the cookie parts once again. Ideally, the leaves are notched out like that so that everything lays flat. If you have to angle the petal up to rest on top of the leaf, it doesn't look as nice. You want everything as tight as possible to create that really like puzzle effect that it looks like one giant cookie. Here is a photo of the top view of the flower. I didn't make any accent little flowers, but I think that that would really like finish off the overall design, some additional smaller flowers. I hope you enjoyed the tutorial. It's inspired you to maybe make your own version. Thanks so much for watching. Thanks so much for being here. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to ask, and I'll see you in the next cookie tutorial.